Project Music here. Now today I am joined by a friend of the shop and our sort of teacher, Irve Griffiths. How you doing, Irve?
Hello.
Hello.
I'm very well, thank you.
Good, excellent
And you?
stuff. I'm doing very well, thank you very much.
Excellent, good. Aren't we always? With a guitar in our hands,
I was going to
very
say,
well.
yeah, guitars in hands, I think we're doing pretty well
That's
for
all you
ourselves.
need. Even
Absolutely.
if it's just a prop.
Yeah, just for purposes.
It looks nice.
It looks lovely. And we thought we'd get Irve in to have a bit of a chat just about his influences, why he picked up the guitar, a little bit about what he's currently listening to, and for him to chat about his number one guitar, which I believe is this one here.
Which could be this one.
Could be this one. Today it
this
is,
guitar.
anyway. Irve, I mean, what is it that sort of got you started into playing the guitar?
I was given on my fourth, and I remember it's one of my first memories is my fourth birthday. I can have some hazy stuff before. My fourth birthday, I was given by my parents a ukulele. Now at the time, this little ukulele, brown, made of wood with sort of banjo pegs. We thought it was. My parents thought it was a toy guitar. So, which there's another discussion. Is that what a ukulele is? Anyway, moving on for all you ukulele fans. It was actually a ukulele, and I used to play this thing all the time. I had no idea. I didn't know how to tune it. I didn't know any tunes or anything, but I used to sort of pick things out and see how it made noises, and I was fascinated by the strings moving. And I guess in that sense, the guitar discovered me because I just knew I wanted to play one. I don't remember ever having a moment when I thought, oh, there's a guitar. That's a nice idea. I'd like to play one. I just literally, the guitar picked me. I already just knew I wanted
Knew it was
to do
the thing. Fantastic.
Yeah. And then it went on, 8 years old, my primary school teacher said, who wants to learn guitar? I was like, pick me, pick me. My hand getting even further.
As far as you can.
As far as I could. Tall as trees. And that was where the guitar started with Mr. Curtis back in Bradninch Primary School.
Excellent. And did you find that it was just kind of you were just drawn to everything guitar? Was it doesn't matter what, if it had a guitar in it, if it was music, if it was film, anything, you would just be like, oh my god, there's a guitar, oh my god, there's a guitar. Was it a constant thing for you? Or was that the kind of way?
I guess I'm probably about the youngest age group bracket. I'll leave that you to guess that. I'm probably about the youngest age bracket that could say they saw Hank Marvin with a red Strat and thought, that looks cool, I want to be that. But also at the time, I was a kid in the 70s, and anything that's on, I remember seeing Andrew Segovia, pictures of him and stuff, and I remember seeing pictures of then, later on in that time, I remember seeing punk guitarists and thinking like, oh, they look really scary, but look, they're playing guitars. And it all looked cool to me. It all seemed really good, and it was all something I wanted to do.
Yeah, it's funny because I can see that in the way that you appreciate music and the way that you play. I feel like that's kind of obvious that it didn't matter what it was, what genre, what anything that was. If it had a guitar in it, it interested you, and you might have only taken tidbits, but you've introduced that into all of your playing, and obviously what you're into with obviously all the different.
Yeah, there's layers of different
all kinds of
here
things
and there, and this big kind of musical gumbo that seems to be inside me.
Yeah. It's just it's quite fascinating really, because I think we forget sometimes some of those influences from those days. There's the obvious ones. You go, I started off with Nirvana and those sorts of things. Those sort of things. Oh, that's pretty cool. Yeah. But then if I go back, you mentioning Segovia. Yeah. I remember it being played in my house because my mum was really into classical guitar and flamenco and all that sort of thing as well. Yeah. So that would be playing in our house, and then things like Queen and Michael Jackson's Bad album was one of the things that I just remember so much. It was in my ears all the time. Yeah. But now I wouldn't necessarily put it down as an influence, but it obviously was. Yeah.
But it also shows that your mum was far cooler than my parents. Sorry if you're watching, Dad.
Well, there you go. So I will definitely. I'll let her know that.
Actually, I put me appreciating Johnny Cash down to my dad. So thank you for that.
Oh, there we go. See, that's a pretty good one as well. So, going on from sort of what was influencing you then, how about now? What is it that you're really digging into? What's your thing? What are you listening to?
Well, you mentioned earlier about influences, what you got started, and I think there's a combination of two things that sort of get me to where we are. And some of it was very visual. It was the first music, in a sense, I kind of chose myself. It wasn't just because it was kind of punk music. And it really was. I was a bit late to the game. I wasn't really old enough in the 70s, but early 80s, there I am, secondary school. That's what I wanted to be. Because I loved the look and I loved the attitude. And I love the whole punk rock of 3 chords and the truth. Off we go.
Simple,
1, 2, 3, 4, and we're off.
Where you went, yeah.
And that really, really spoke to me. And it was a political message, everything. I felt like I had quite a sort of high political awareness at that age of things that were right and things that were wrong. And as it seemed to me, and I think that sort of bled into the music. And yet on the flip side as well, there was also the listening thing. So, you know, anathema to any self-respecting punk rocker. I was listening to bands at the time like classical rock fusion band Sky, and I remember seeing jazz pianists on the TV and being absolutely drawn in by it and wanting to be there. I remember hearing Stefan Grappelli, jazz violinist, and being absolutely absorbed in that sound and wanting to know what it was and how it worked and just being drawn in.
Wow.
And my first musical memory, and it seems like an odd one for a kid who grew up in Devon, is the first song I really remember hearing and remember picking out, going like, oh, I like that bit. I remember hearing Sejuk by Stevie Wonder, and I always remember the and that really grabbed me. That
massively
sound,
iconic sound, yeah.
So actually, if you take all that sort of musical mixture together, is you sort of get me where I am now, which is a mixture of lots of different bits, and So actually, to answer your question, what am I listening to now? I brought a prop.
Oh,
or several.
How very organised of us.
How very organised. I wonder if we discussed these questions before. Here they are.
Oh, not definitely.
Because I'm not a vinyl hipster, I've been listening to records as they are actually known. For my whole life, I've always loved records. So that is, I guess, if you say what's my influences, part of it is these big 12-inch diameter circles of plastic that I also very much like. Can't help it. So I would say top of my list at the moment. I've always got lots of things on the go. There's always lots of things I listen to, depending on the mood and things like that. But I would say top of my list at the moment is the almost indescribable Julian Lage. I think I'm pronouncing his surname correctly.
I believe so.
I think it's Lage. Yeah. This is his previous album, not the current one. You and I have discussed the current album. We're both loving it.
Yes.
But this one, I think it's just because it was the first one I grabbed, but actually I've been listening to this one a lot. Somehow Julian Lage has managed to take jazz into the now in a way by not being too jazzy. It is definitely jazz.
Yeah, it's a funny, weird dynamic, isn't it? That he's
but there's blues in there, and there's folk in there, and there's Americana, and chiefly it's his playing dynamics. He's a wonderful guitarist who can go from whisper quiet all the way up to ripping the strings out of the guitar level in the space of 4 chords or 4 notes, and right back down again, and actually really playing with the dynamics in a way I don't know if I've ever heard anyone else do.
I don't think so. I think there's an effortless musicality that he has, and it's first of all, it's inspiring to watch. It's also inspiring to listen to, because there's this level of, for lack of better words, earwormery that somehow he creates, and it gets into your brain, and it just catches.
He's mixed pop in there as well.
That's somehow. It. I think there's these little things, these little hooks, and you just go, oh, what is that? And then 7 listens later, same song. There's another little bit that just catches you and it pulls you in, and it also makes you just want to go, oh, where's my guitar? I just want to sit with it and just pretend like I could even get close. And I think he's got something that's, I think both of us have been very much inspired recently by him. But I can see why that's on your on your list.
So that's definitely, and that's very much, that's my guitar-y side that loves guitarists and loves guitar. I love his tone. Incredible sounding guitar, amp, setup, and it's just, here, there appear to be no pedals. It's beautiful Collins guitar into probably a hand-wired Fender Deluxe, I imagine, with a bit of amp reverb, and it's purely that, and beautiful pick and fingers Travis picking playing, which is phenomenal. Really is phenomenal, I'd say. So that's definitely a lot. And the other musicians in his trio, he's been with them a long time. They're great as well. So I love those. So second one, again sticking with the kind of modern vibe. This is Domi and Beck. They're kind of quite hipster at the moment. That's kind of how I picked up with them. I actually really picked up with them. It was the YouTube algorithm which knows all my music tastes and future music tastes.
How does it do this?
Exactly. So
magic.
it decided I might like these
this.
guys.
And by the sounds of it, they might have been fairly correct. It's a scary place.
Correct
YouTube,
enough for
isn't
me to buy
Yeah.
it. I hope they thank me one day. This is their first album. JD Beck and Dominique, as I think her actual real name is. And again, there's a mashing up of styles in there. This is definitely, it's a bit more modern, it is a bit more hipster, it's got kind of funky, groovy beats from Beck, who plays the drums in it. It really mucks around with rhythms.
That's cool.
Pushing beats, pulling beats. It's really mucking around with me. And I nearly don't like it.
I like that. I like that you nearly don't like it. And what is it that you nearly don't like about it?
And it's because some days I can say, oh, I really like this, I can listen to it. And other days I'm like, oh, I don't think I can listen to it, it's too hard. I have to try hard to listen to it.
Yeah.
So I do actually like to listen to things that challenge me.
Yeah.
And that's why I sort of bought this and went down this side. I thought, this feels like an album that would have some years of listening in it, rather just listen to it and immediately like it, play it to death, and then never listen to it again. This feels like one to me that I will come back to at times, and I will slowly over time find new
appreciate
things
certain things about it. Yeah,
every time. Yeah, so I kind of, that's something a bit more modern. That's definitely like very up to date.
Cool.
So then on the back,
what's one more that's really getting
a best
Lenny
of.
Kravitz. Okay.
Yeah. So Lenny Kravitz, I've really liked him since the first album, since he really started. A friend of mine who was into sort of hardcore punk said, oh, I think you might like this because it's a bit more melodic than most of the stuff I listen to. So he lent me a couple of the albums, and I really liked it because there's a lot of Hendrix in there, there's a lot of blues in there, there's a lot of rock, but he's really poppy as well. It's the fact that he's very successfully made sort of funk and he's made rock and pop very funky.
Yeah.
Plus, I know as well, he's an obsessive about vintage guitars, vintage effects, amps.
Yeah.
You know, he's got the whole, I've got original hand-brushed fuzz face from 1932 with the original, he's that. You know, he's probably be up there with the rest of us who are sort of cork sniffing their guitar tone. So it sounds fantastic.
Yeah.
And I love it, and it's groovy and it's poppy, and my daughter and I dance around the house singing our heads off to it. You know, it's that kind of thing. I love that kind of thing.
I do feel like he's one of those artists that every time a song of his comes on the radio, you can't help but just get involved. It's one of those. He's definitely one of those guys. And especially great hits album as well. You know, that's going to be the one that's got all the
it's got all the winners on it.
All the winners, I think.
However, I can really recommend it. The latest, I love the last album as well.
Right.
That's another favourite of ours in the house. I toss and turn between should I go that one or the latest album.
Yeah, excellent.
But that one's really like it.
Big listener. Cool. Excellent.
It's a big one. I love it. There's more there, but I feel that might be time for another issue.
Excellent stuff. But yeah, I mean, I think it's it kind of shows. You can see that as obviously your influences are still kind of the same because it's almost everything. You know, you can almost. I know we've had so many conversations in the past when you'll pick out just stuff that I never realised that you listened to, but then when I think about it, and I watch you play, and I go, okay, yeah, I get that, and that's kind of where it maybe stems from. But yeah, that's fantastic. I guess
as you can imagine, me as the only punk in the village.
There you go. And I think it's quite funny how you kind of. You think that your musical taste, they evolve and they change and things like that so much, but realistically, I would happily go back and listen to so many of the things that I used to listen to that arguably now you look at it and go, oh well, it's just not really as special in some senses because I've listened to it so many times. But then every now and again you revisit these old things and you go, and also growing up as well, you just appreciate suddenly, like when I was younger we had the Beatles on in the house quite a lot. Enjoyed it, very good, but not until the last few years have I really gone, oh okay, these guys really were pretty special. They did have a lot of stuff going on. I'm not listening to them every day, but you can't help but appreciate what they've done and things like that. And it's, and I know it's a very cliche thing, the Beatles is a classic one, but there's cliches are a cliche for a reason, I suppose. It's one of those things that's like they've done such a great thing.
So may I tell you, my Beatles is in there for me, but it was by a bit of a roundabout way. So in my my first band I was in at secondary school, when I was allowed to play guitar, was we did quite a lot of Beatles cover, but I didn't really know at the time because and I've only found out since, as we're still in touch, is the singer was a Beatles obsessive. He's an absolute Beatles nut. And he explained to me the other day, and I didn't know this at the time, that the reason he was a Beatles nut is he didn't really have any records, and his friend's mum said, oh, you can listen to mine, and gave him all her Beatles records. So he had all these, he loved all these, and still does.
Yeah.
But so I actually learned all my Beatles songs. I didn't really know them from the Beatles. I knew them from my friend Tim.
How funny.
He was the one who showed me the songs, and so I learned them from us playing them in the band, rather than actually in general hearing them.
Taking the actual thing from the record.
Yeah.
How funny.
Yeah.
There you go.
A roundabout way.
A roundabout way, but it showed that just continuing the influence in the game, I suppose.
And I would say, talking of influence, is that there's still the melodic element of the Beatles. George Harrison, I still say, is one of my favourite guitarists in my endless list of favourite guitarists.
That's the problem, is that every week there's a different one, isn't there?
There's always a new one. I've just added Julian Lage, so
That's it,
Makes some room at the back there.
Yeah. And then I guess also with endless lists of favourite guitar players, how about endless lists of favourite guitars? I see you've got your suhr with you. What is that? Is that number one at the moment? Is that the one you're playing?
Yeah.
Mostly?
I thought to myself earlier, if you ask me how many guitars I've got, my answer would be more than one.
Yeah. I think I'd be in the same boat. Yeah.
But actually, I don't have hordes of guitars. In fact, I'm definitely at the sort of one in, one out stage-ish, he says, as he's just bought another one. But I don't have sort of hundreds of guitars, because I'm a real believer in, some things I've got because a couple of things I've got because they're maybe collectible a bit more. But actually, most of the guitars I own are really because they're my tools, because I'm a working musician. I teach, I play live, I produce. All those things need reliable instruments, tools that do the job. And I remember talking to my friend one day, who's a carpenter, and he said, I buy decent tools because when you're doing it as a daily living, day in, day out, you need to have decent tools that do the job and don't break. Yeah. And in a sense, that's the suhr. This is my sort of rock and roll reliable. So this one does a bit of everything, and I would say this is probably my current go-to guitar, because with all the myriad of switching options, it does Strat, it does neck Les Paul, it does jazz, it does screaming lead solo, so it will do so many things.
You can pretty much just grab that one and go to anything.
Exactly. This is the kind of go-to thing. Yeah. Having said that, I'm also I've got a really nice, not old, one of the modern Gretsch arch tops, and that one lives in my sitting room mostly these days, but it really is, it's such a go-to. Every time I pick it up I think, oh, I love this guitar. Yeah. It really is, and I do generally, in fact, I probably do love the guitars too much, but my family will have to agree with that.
But just have to deal with it, I guess, isn't it? I think like us all, I think it's
But I really love guitars.
Yeah. I think they all have those subtle little differences, and sometimes you look at them and go, do I need this many? Yeah. But then you pick them up on a particular day and they've just got that sound. Maybe it's the sound that's in your head from what you've been listening to, what you've been doing, and you just go, it's got to be a Strat sound today, or it's got to be a Les Paul sound today, and they have their things. And but I think,
or as we were discussing earlier today, I pick up one of my Fender tellies, and I think, it doesn't play quite as well as it doesn't have that kind of seamless, modern, unbelievably playable neck, but it has something about it. It has a bit of fight in it. It has a bit of mojo. It has its own thing. Yeah. So, although, this is my working tool, because when I take it out of the case at the gig, it will still be in tune from the day before. Yeah, and it won't go out of tune. And it's ready to go, and I know all the sounds will sound great. But actually, I play my Fender, or I play one of the others, and I think there's something about this guitar. It has a mojo of its own. It makes me play different things.
Yeah, definitely.
In the words of The Edge, he would ask, does this guitar have songs in it? So I've kind of always resonated with that idea.
100%. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Yeah. I find it's sometimes when I've sold guitars, I've gone, but I wrote that song on that one. I remember playing that, or I played that gig with that one. It's a shame to move on.
It led me there.
It's led me there. That's it. Yeah. It's all these things. But no, I completely get it, and I can see why the suhr is your number one for now. Anyway.
Yeah. One at the moment. At the moment. That's today's favourite. Sorry, darling.
Well, excellent. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Irve,
thank you.
We'll obviously see you again next week for when you're back in for teaching. The next level, and you'll probably see some more videos from Irve soon. Well, thank you very much, and we'll see you guys in the next video.
Thanks for listening.